Hey guys, so today I'm going to do predictions for the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. So I'm going to start with Toronto Maple Leafs versus Boston Bruins. So I may do a preview for every like series. I don't know yet, but yeah. So let's start. So Toronto versus Boston. So first I'm going to say like their records, like their stats. So like the records, Toronto 49, 26, and 7. With 105 points. They finished third in the Atlantic, 7 points behind Boston. Boston's record was 50, 20, and 12, 112 points, second in the Atlantic. So Boston will have home ice in this series, so if there's a Game 7, it'll be played in Boston, unfortunately. The season series, 3-1-0 for the Leafs. So Leafs won 3-2 in overtime, 4-1 and 4-3. And then the Bruins won one game, 4-1. So the Leafs are going to come off a record-setting season, and are going to look to like complete their run. You know, I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, obviously not, but like, I don't know. We'll see what they can do. So this marks the 15th time that these teams will face one another in the playoffs, and the first time since 2013, where Boston won in 7 games after the Leafs had a 4-1 lead in Game 7 in Boston, and then they lost 5-4 in overtime. So the Leafs are going to carry momentum from this record-setting season, and hopefully they'll capitalize and not lose in 6 this time. So Game 1 will be played on Thursday, April 12th, 2018, in Boston at 7 p.m. It should be on Sportsnet or TSN, if you're in Canada. So it went right down to the final minutes of the final game of 2017-2018, but the Toronto Maple Leafs finally have their first-round opponent. Tampa Bay takes the Eastern Crown and finishes as a higher seed than the Boston Bruins, but there's a case to be made that the Bolts would have been the preferable matchup for Toronto. I do not agree. I feel like Boston is worse than Tampa. My friend was even saying that they're pretty much the same, but like Tampa is of course a bit better. And they're really close in the standings. They have a pretty close record, so I mean they're not like totally different. But I still feel like, you know what I mean, like I still feel like Boston is a better opponent because like Toronto has obviously been better against them. Yes, Tampa has somewhat struggled as well, but you know what I mean. I still feel like Boston is a better team. Plus, Toronto wants a redemption. Toronto wants their payback on Boston. So Tampa's style lines up well with the Leafs. They're both teams that rely on speed and dynamic offensive skill to pile up goals on their opponents. There's a bit of run and gun in there, and Toronto can keep pace with that approach. The Bruins, they're a different breed, and they have plenty more ways to frustrate a team like Toronto. Boston can score with the best of them. It's the 6th highest scoring team in the league, in fact, but it can also be punishingly physical, defensively responsible, and has a crew of leaders with the Stanley Cup rings on the shelf. Nothing has been able to quell the Bruins up to this point. Injuries and suspensions couldn't do it. They've been really good despite having a lot of injuries. The club just kept adding key pieces down the stretch. The latest being rookie sensation Ryan Donato, who put up a quick 9 points through 12 late season games to keep things rolling. That's really good. That said, there's plenty to like about this Leafs team, particularly up front. A crew of young elite game changers, backed up by reliable veteran talent, but it's the blue line that could be a problem, and the team on the other side won't have, as Boston allowed the 4th fewest goals in the league this season. So Toronto may have some struggling scoring, but by the way, I'm tired. It's like Monday morning. I should be at school right now, but I'm not. So Toronto has a strong enough squad to give Boston some trouble. It did take 3 or 4 meetings with the Bruins this season. The Leafs, of course, won 3 or 4 meetings. The one they lost was in Boston 4-1. I already mentioned that earlier. But with the club getting outshot in all but only one of the games, the deciding factor might be on the netminder Frederik Andersen to possibly steal the series. So now we're going to move on to advanced stats. So 5-on-5 normal hockey, Toronto is 49.85 CF percent. I don't know what the fuck that means. CF percent, which is 17th in the league. 53.96 goals for percentage, which is 5th in the league. .928 save percentage, which is 8th in the league. 9.01 shorthanded percentage, which is 2nd in the league. And then 101.77 PDO, which is 2nd in the league. Boston, on the other hand, is 53.66 CF%, so that's a couple more than Toronto. That's second in the league. 55.07 goals for, which is third. 0.925 save percentage, which is 12th, so Toronto was only up by 0.3 there. 7.89 shorthanded percentage, which is 12th, and 100.38 PDO, which is 13th in the league. Power number, determined by percentiles created for a variety of statistics and weighed equally to give each team a grade out of 10 for offense and defense, 7 for 5-on-5, and 3 for special teams. These numbers are then averaged to come up with the power measure to measure a team's all-around play. So team stats. Toronto is 25.0 power, they're 25% on the power play, which is second in the league. 81.4% penalty kill, which isn't bad either, which is 10th. 270 goals for, which is third, and then 230 goals allowed, which is 12th. Boston, on the other hand, 23.5% for the power play, which is fourth. 83.7% for the penalty kill, third. 267 goals for, so only 3 less than Toronto, and then which is sixth in the league, and then 211 goals allowed, which is like 19 less than Toronto, which is fourth in the league. Their head-to-head records this season, Toronto is 3-1-0 and Boston is 1-2-1. The Maple Leafs outlook on this thing, by wins and points, this is the most successful regular season team that the Maple Leafs have iced in their long history. Unfortunately for them, they've achieved it in an era with a playoff format that forces you to play out of your own division first, which means Toronto faces an even better team right out of the gate. It's always tough to play tough teams like right away, because then you have such an amazing season, you play such a hard team, and then it's like, frick, I lost. Like, we just got in here and now we're out. That's the only thing I hate. Like, everyone gets so excited, but like everyone is gonna, like, a lot of these teams are gonna lose, of course, like in the first round. It sucks, but that's how it is. One team only wins the whole thing out of 31 NHL teams. But if there is a team suited to pull off an early upset, it would be Toronto, which finished third in the Atlantic with the 7th best record in the league, which is not that bad. Only Tampa, Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, and Vegas scored more often than the Maple Leafs this season. And though they allow a ton of shots on net, Frederik Andersen has emerged as one of the top netminders in the game today, acting as a great equalizer for a team that, while still getting a good amount of points from top blue liners Jake Gardiner and Morgan Rielly, still has a need to improve its shot suppression. The Leafs are fast, young, and mostly healthy, which means they're as prepared as they can be for a tough first-round matchup. Last year's six-game opening round defeat as an 8 seed against Washington gave this team a taste. Now we'll see if they've grown enough to take a bite out of the playoffs and knock off a top contender out of the gate. To be honest, I do want to see Toronto take out Boston, not only because of 2013, but I've never liked the Bruins. Anyone that's a Bruins fan, sorry, but I hate Boston so much. Like, I hate them. I hate the Sox, the Celtics. I hate every Boston team. Like, oh, I hate them all. So I really hope Toronto can somehow take them out. So now the Boston Bruins outlook on this. This is the team that can play any style. Boston can play a physical game, a quick game, an offensive game, or a defensive game. However you want to come at them, the Bruins have an answer. Boston has the 6th most goals in the league, allowed the 4th fewest, averaged the 9th most shots, and gave up the 2nd fewest, which is like, that's pretty good. Between Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, Boston has 2 players for whom you can build a Hart Trophy argument around. One of the most amazing things about this team is how they've consistently been able to win despite key injuries. Bergeron, Torrey Krug, David Krejci, Jake DeBrusk, Charles McAvoy, Zdeno Chara, and trade deadline pickup Rick Nash have all been sidelined at various points. While Marchand has faced a couple of suspensions, in the absence of each of these players, Boston didn't miss a beat. So to be honest, that's a really good sign if you can do that. Like, if you can win despite having plenty of injuries, that's like really good for your team. Of course, it's better to have all your players, but if you can show that you're still really good and you're still the same despite any injuries, that's really good. A total of 11 different rookies have suited up for the Bruins this season, with the underrated Danton Heinen leading them all in points, followed by DeBrusk and McAvoy, who was a likely Calder Trophy finalist before going down with injury. Had it not been for Gerard Gallant and the Vegas Golden Knights, Bruins coach Bruce Cassidy would be taking home the Jack Adams Award this season for a job done incredibly well. To be honest, I'm not going to take any credit away. Boston is a really good team. I just really don't like them. So now the Maple Leafs X Factor. Over the past 2 years, Nazem Kadri has emerged as a smart two-way player and quietly excellent goal scorer. The 63 he's scored since October 2016 are the 17th most in the NHL, ahead of players like Jamie Benn, Patrick Kane, and Sean Monahan. The playoffs are a different animal, though. Kadri scored just once in 6 games versus the Capitals last spring and has 2 in 13 career postseason games. Austin Matthews will draw all the toughest line matchups, at least on the road in the playoffs, which leaves Kadri in a position to flourish and be an impact playoff performer for the first time. He and line mates Mitch Marner and Patrick Marleau are coming into the playoffs on a high, too, as an extremely dangerous offensive line. To be honest, both Boston and Toronto have like really good like offensive lines and just like really good team in general. So I think it'll be a very even series. I'll tell you my prediction in the end. Not that I exactly have one, but it'll be really close. Like, it's not going to be an easy series for either one because both teams come back. You saw in 2013 they had a 4-1 lead. They easily could have cut that. Boston comes back and wins. You know what I mean? So you can never know. No lead is safe in any sport. Okay. In general, goals and power play opportunities come down in the playoffs as well. So Kadri's defensive abilities, which have improved in leaps and bounds under Mike Babcock, will also be put into the spotlight. The Bruins' X factor is, though he's their leading scorer, Marchand was mostly overshadowed by the two-way strength of Bergeron in any MVP talk. But when the assistant captain missed a month late in the season, Marchand posted 20 points in 12 games. That's really good. We know he can score and pester, but Marchand becomes a problem when he crosses a line. It's tougher to get yourself suspended in the playoffs. But Marchand is always a candidate to take a dumb penalty at the wrong time. He's an extremely talented and valuable player, but also a volatile one. While Boston wants him to bring that edge to his game, it's a tightrope walk to not cross the line and cost the team. Yeah, honestly, you can't be like taking dumb penalties. You can't get a suspension. You can't fuck your team up. You know what I mean? So team leaders, goals, assists, and points. So Toronto, Mitch Marner, 22 goals, 47 assists, and 69 points. Austin Matthews, 33 goals. Oh no, sorry. These are statistics as of, I think, a few days ago. Austin Matthews scored the first Toronto goal against Montreal, so he now has 34 goals, and number 34 goals. So 34 goals, 28 assists. I'm assuming he has more assists and points now, but yeah. And then William Nylander has 20 goals, 40 assists, and 60 points. For Boston, Brad Marchand, 34 goals, 51 assists, and 85 points. David Pastrnak, 35 goals, 45 assists, and 80 points, sorry. And then Patrice Bergeron, 30 goals, 33 assists, and 63 points. So as you can see, both teams have 3 really good players. Like, Marner is amazing, Matthews is amazing, Nylander's amazing. Of course, Brad Marchand's amazing, David Pastrnak's great. They're all really good players. So now I'm going to tell you some offense, defense stats. So Toronto in offense is 7.60, which is 5th in the league. In defense, they're 5.80, which is 8th in the league. And then their power number is 6.70, which is 5th in the league. For Boston, their offense is 6.96, which is 6th in the league. For defense, they're 9.21, which is 1st in the league. And their power number is also 1st in the league with 8.08. So Boston lost their last game 4-2, and the Leafs won their last game 4-2. I don't know what their records are in their last 10. I was actually trying to see, but it wouldn't show me. So my prediction now, it's really hard to say. I was gonna say one of the teams in 7. I literally do not even know who to start with or who to even think. I know this series will go. It's not going to be a sweep. It's not going to be 5 games. It may not even be 6. I do see this game going 7. And the thing is, if it does go 7 games, I feel like Boston will win. But then again, you can't always guarantee that because Toronto had a 4-1 lead. But guess what? Boston still won. They overcame it. So it's also kind of tough to predict because you never know if someone comes back. For all we know, Boston's going to lead 4-1 and then Toronto will come back and win. You never know, right? You always have to keep hope in the playoffs. Game 7s are really exciting and really stressful too. For teams, players, obviously, whatever, fans. So my prediction is going to be the Leafs or Bruins, obviously in 7. I'm going to say, I don't even know. If I was going to choose someone, I'm always a negative. I'm a negative person, so normally I would say Boston, but Toronto definitely has a better chance this year. Actually, whoever's watching this, tell me your predictions right now. Who do you think will win? Boston, Toronto, because I was looking some stuff up, like some previews, and some people are actually saying that they can see Toronto versus Washington in the ECF, and I was like, the ECF, bro, I don't even know if they're going to win in the first round. Of course, I want them to go as far as they can. Winnipeg and Toronto is the only Canadian teams. Toronto versus Winnipeg in the finals would be amazing. All Canadian matchup, it would be amazing, because like the Canada's team has not won a cup in a while. Like, Canada hasn't had a Stanley Cup in a while, so at this point, despite Winnipeg not being my team, if Toronto's out, then I'm going for Winnipeg full out, like definitely full out. Any other Canadian team that's in the playoffs and mine's out, then I will for sure go for them. So I do think they're pretty even. They're pretty even in terms of stats. They're pretty even in terms of players. Both teams have really good lines. Both teams, of course, Boston does edge better in some statistics. But Toronto is coming off their best season, and I don't know if they're going to cap it off now. I don't know if they're going to at least win the first round. I do not know. This game is going to be, Game 1 is going to be Thursday, so today's Monday, so it'll be in about like 3-4 days. Again, you can watch it on Sportsnet, TSN, and then it's going to be in Boston, Game 1 at 7 p.m. So I hope you guys like this video. Next video I'm going to do is Winnipeg versus Minnesota. And yeah, I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.